This is the new TC Pride Podcast, episode 131, on location at Grey Duck Media Headquarters for an exclusive sneak preview of the 2019 Twin Cities Pride Guide.
Twin Cities Pride Podcast, we are on location at the Growler headquarters here at Grey Duck Media. Incidentally, Quorum's one of Quorum's inclusion leaders of the year, and I'm here with
John Garland, the creative director of Grey Duck Media.
John, great to see you again. So you've been on the podcast before. Generally, it's in some sort of like beer dabbler capacity, which I'm loving. Usually today, the context is a little bit different. We're here to make a really big announcement about something that's happening the next few days here.
Absolutely. We are publishing the Pride Guide again this year for Twin Cities Pride. So we started last year and publishing the Pride Guide along with Twin Cities Pride, and it's grown into a quarterly magazine, and this is now our second issue of the year that includes all the great information about what's happening during the festival and the parade and all the stuff you need to know for Pride Weekend.
Yeah, so we want to tell people all about this issue. But before we do that, I thought we'd take people back in time a little bit. And because we haven't done this before, talk about sort of the history of the project, how it got started, maybe how you got involved, and kind of give people the scoop in that area.
Absolutely. So we have enjoyed a working relationship with Twin Cities Pride for a number of years. We've been hosting the Beer Dabbler on the Friday of Pride Weekend.
I'm a big fan.
I'm a huge fan. It's my favorite dabbler that we do. The weather is always beautiful. Loring Park is the best place to have a beer fest. And so this year is our 8th annual Beer Dabbler at Twin Cities Pride. And so we've always loved working and doing that event with Pride. And a couple of years ago, they were thinking about publishing their own materials for the Pride Festival. And they came to us, since we are magazine publishers, and they said, hey, would you potentially want to work on a Pride Guide with us? And we said, well, absolutely we would. But also, since we're magazine people, maybe it shouldn't just be a Pride Guide. Maybe instead of just having info about what's happening in the park and what happens at the parade, maybe we should write some stories, pull in some voices from all parts of the community to tell their stories about what Pride means to them. And it's grown into a quarterly magazine, and we couldn't be prouder about it.
So you mentioned all the information that there is around the festival and the parade. There's a lot to know. I can imagine it was sort of a challenge, even as like magazine guys, like you said, magazine people. It must have been kind of a challenge to figure out how to like format it all and how to lay it all out and present it all in a magazine format.
Yeah, and it's always in flux too. I mean, it's the second largest outdoor event in the state of Minnesota, and it is a massive undertaking from a huge group of volunteers and dedicated Pride employees. And for us to pull together all that information from dozens and dozens of performers performing on 4 different stages, a new parade route this year, the tons of logistics that go into pulling together a festival of that size in Loring Park. It's a challenge, but it's a labor of love, and it's been really successful so far.
Yes, and one of the things that I love about the Pride Guide and the whole initiative, the whole project, is that, there's been a conversation in lots of arenas recently about, representation and visibility. And this isn't lost on the creative team here at the Growler, at Grey Duck, the people behind the Pride Guide. You guys really put a lot of thought into making sure that maybe traditionally underserved, underrepresented parts of the community are represented in this project.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, it seems trite to say, it seems like a cliche, but it matters to have representation in media. I mean, it actually makes a difference in people's lives. There's just no doubt about it. And we have been really fortunate to work with an organization that understands that and that wants to pull together, all of the constituent communities that represent the Twin Cities LGBT community. There are stories that aren't being told, and that's just as simple as that. And as magazine people, we want to tell those stories, and so it's important to us that all of those different perspectives are represented in the magazine. And when they are, it makes for a more successful publication.
And on that, speaking of stories, let's talk about this specific issue. I'm really excited to let people know about everything that's included in this year's Pride Guide, Twin Cities Pride Magazine. What are maybe a few things that you want people to know about this issue?
Sure. So we have all of the information that you're going to need to enjoy the festival weekend. First and foremost, stage schedules, directory of all the performers, lots of good info about where to park and what you can expect in the park, and all of the the basic boots on the ground kind of stuff. But beyond that, we've got a lot of really good profiles in this Pride Guide. Profiles of musicians who will be performing either in the park or at events the surrounding Twin Cities Pride weekend. We've got a really good essay from a guy who's been touring with a Broadway company for the last 5 years, and he talks about life on the road. It is hilarious. We've got Lisa Marie Brimmer, who is a very well-known poet around these parts. She's our house poet, and she does a poem on the back of every issue, and it's a really powerful one this time around. Just a lot of really good in-depth discussion with the people who not only showing off their creative abilities during Twin Cities Pride, but talking about how they're leveraging the visibility and the space that they're creating within the community year-round.
And if we zoom out, so related to the project, so every issue, some things are going to be consistent and some things are going to be different. So there's only been a handful of issues so far, but to kind of let people know about what's coming up. So every issue is going to have like a theme, like a basically seasonal theme, I guess kind of the thought is right now. But then there's also going to be consistent features, kind of categories throughout each issue as well.
Yeah, we have a number of very talented columnists. Lisa is one of them. Also, we have Mike Augustinak from WCCO as our cocktail columnist. He has a great recipe for Pride Punch in this issue that he does with Hodges Bend. We have our arts columnist, Eric Broker, is talking to the good folks at the Quatrefoil Library and the Treader Collection about how their archives are building community. We've got a wellness column, too, that we've partnered with Just Us Health, and they're contributing an article in every issue that just talks about some basic steps you can take towards personal wellness. In this issue, we talk about anxiety, what it is, what to do when you feel it welling up in you, and how to move on and be productive after that. So a lot of really good recurring features from our columnists will continue into the future. Yeah.
Sounds like quite the all-star cast of contributors there. So I've been getting questions from people about how, honestly, so I mean, I think maybe people have been kind of slowly kind of feeling this out to see if you guys kind of meant business and were planning on sticking around in the long term, and you clearly are. I think as that people have gotten used to you guys being around, I think people have gotten more interested about how to get involved in the project. What are some ways that people can get involved? Everything from maybe pitching a story to maybe supporting the project through advertising in the magazine.
Absolutely. So it is, our goal to make sure that we are reaching out to every corner, nook, and cranny of this community, and we want to hear your stories. I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier about representation, I mean, it's incumbent on us, if we're going to be in this space, to do our due diligence to find people with stories that need to be told. And it's really interesting the way that we've constructed this magazine is different than sort of the normal editorial process, where you come in with a very specific editorial goal, and then it's sort of top down, that filters down into which stories you greenlight and which contributors you work with. And this magazine is built in the exact opposite way. It's ground up. It's seeking out contributors and asking them what they're interested in. What do they want people to know? And then taking from that approach, bubbling back up to an overall editorial strategy. It's frankly a harder way to publish a magazine. It adds to my general level of stress, but we've made sure that this magazine has grown organically from the people that contribute to it, and that's what we will continue to do in the future.
Definitely sounds like a labor of love, like you just referred to. So I also want to mention, so this commitment to inclusion and diversity, this is nothing new around here. So like I said, I mean, you guys are relatively new to the community in some ways. But this commitment to inclusion and diversity goes back a long time. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about a really important initiative that you guys started recently called Your Pride in Brewing Scholarship. Let's let you take it from there.
Yeah, so we've been as publishers of the Growler magazine, we've been very connected in the beer industry for the last several years, almost a decade now since our first Beer Dabbler that we threw. And if there's one thing that we want to challenge our beer community to do and to become and to think about, is the diversity of voices and people that contribute to it. And let's be honest, beer is a pretty monochromatic industry right now. It is.
I think you mentioned that sort of stereotypical demographic of, the bearded male of a certain age, et cetera, et cetera. Right?
Exactly right. And, as much of a stereotype as that is, it's also true. And we know that when a diversity of people contribute to an industry, it only strengthens that industry, because right now, craft beer only accounts for about, depending on how you measure it, 10% of the overall beer market, maybe less, maybe more, but it's not much. There are a lot of people who are not being served by our industry. And as we look around, we see tap rooms that all look kind of the same. We see beer styles that are looking kind of the same. We see a lot of sameness in this industry. And especially, as we think about the people behind brewing, we notice a great lack of LGBTQ voices and decision makers in our industry. And we thought if there was something that we could do to help diversify our industry, that we should be doing that. And so the Pride in Brewing Initiative is a partnership with Dakota County Technical College, and we hold a number of different fundraisers throughout the year at local breweries. The proceeds go to sending a member of the LGBT community to brewing school at DCTC every year. So hopefully we can get some more diversity in this industry.
I think it's really important too that we share with people kind of how this Pride in Brewing thing got started. And correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, the story is that there was I believe that there was an email received by the Growler, by one of the breweries that was asked to participate in the Pride Dabbler. And instead of responding to that email in the way that some other organizations might, instead of caving to pressure in one direction, you guys actually kind of doubled down on your commitment to inclusion and diversity, and kind of put that into action.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate email to receive from this brewery, and not only was it unfortunate that they didn't just simply delete the email and move on with their lives, but that they responded in such a way that it made it clear to us that even more than we knew before, it made it clear to us that this brewery is in need of some more diversity. I mean, there's this industry is it's growing. It's trying to attract new customers. It's trying to organize, communities in different ways. The tap rooms that have sprung up all over the state of Minnesota have become sort of our de facto meeting places. They become sort of that vaulted third space, right? And we want those third spaces to be open and inclusive to more people, and to get more people of all different kinds of backgrounds in our, to enjoy the craft brewing industry that we enjoy so much. And so, yeah, that email, it was unfortunate, but it made us realize that we have more work to do in that regard.
Absolutely. And, that's another thing. That's another reason that you guys are recognized this year by Quorum as inclusion leaders. I think that probably people would consider the Beer Dabbler, the Growler, Grey Duck, as sort of, a leading voice, if not an authority in the beer community. I think all of the breweries throughout, what's really interesting is that, so the beer community, the taproom community, goes out into greater Minnesota, where I always talk about how we're kind of in the bubble here. And in a lot of ways, Minneapolis has kind of won a lot of the battles that are being fought in other parts of the country. And that's not always the case in greater Minnesota. And that the Growler is using their voice, their leadership platform to affect change in whatever way they can.
Yeah, and that's always been something we've strived to do. It's something that we're we're always trying to improve on doing. I won't claim that we've arrived at that leadership position. I don't think that's ever a given. That's not a laurel we can rest on. It's something. It's an everyday, every month, every issue process, and it's something that we've been delighted to receive great feedback about, and it's something we don't take lightly, and we want to use the voice that we've cultured in a way that improves the community and our industry in ways that we see that it needs to happen.
Yeah, that's actually a great perspective on leadership that I think pretty much every business could learn from, is that leadership it's not really a destination. It's not somewhere that you just get and then you're good. I think that's kind of what defines leadership, is that you're always out there looking for more and trying to be better. So let's change gears a little bit to Growler World here. So maybe you can tell people about kind of what's happening in Growler world. The lights just went out, so we're actually recording this at Growler HQ.
There are motion sensors up here in the warehouse that apparently we've been sitting still too long, so we're in the dark now.
Okay, well, that's all right. So we can work through this. Oh, okay, there we go. The lights are back on again. So, hey guys. So yeah, well, actually, that's a great segue into your new space. Why don't we talk about this exciting new space you guys are in?
So we've been in this space for about a year now. It's we have a new offices just off West 7th Street. It's actually, this building was part of the old Schmidt Brewery complex. So the great Schmidt Brewery that has the Keg and Case Marketplace on West 7th. This building is just down the street from Schmidt, and it used to be the carriage house. This is where they teamed their horses back in the day. So it's a gorgeous old brick building. We have a couple floors of it, and so we've kind of moved our retail operations online. We used to have the store on West 7th Street, and now we've kind of moved that online and sort of consolidated two offices that we had before into one. And it's just a wonderful space to be in, and we love working in St. Paul.
Yeah, so let's maybe clear up a little confusion, too, that people might have. So I get asked all the time about the Beer Dabbler and the Growler, and are they related? Are they the same thing, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, the Beer Dabbler is our parent company. Grey Duck Media is our overarching company that does the publishing and events. But the Beer Dabbler is our main company, and the Growler is an offshoot of that.
And so you do events, multiple events a year. So you mentioned the Pride Dabbler. There generally a handful of events that are done every year, including the new one. Maybe I don't think we've talked about that on this recording here, about the new kind of mini Dabbler. Maybe we can tell people about the events, including that one.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this new series. But to back up for a sec, we do 3 Beer Dabblers a year. We do our summer Beer Dabbler, which has been at CHS Field in Lowertown, St. Paul for the last couple of years, and we do the Pride Dabbler, as we mentioned, on the Friday of every Pride weekend. And then our biggest event of the year is the winter Beer Dabbler, and that is at the State Fairgrounds in the middle of February. And if you think it is insane that 10,000 people go out to the fairgrounds when it is the dark of winter to drink beer, you are right. It is completely insane, but it is so much fun. It is an experience. It's like a truly Minnesotan experience that you will just not get anywhere else.
We were there actually on location a couple of years ago. It ended up calling it the Snownomi Dabbler, the Snowpocalypse Dabbler. This was crazy. It just started snowing out of nowhere, and before we knew it, there was like a foot of snow on the ground. Yes, a very, very Minnesota experience.
The Blizzard Dabbler is what I've come to call it. It was an insane event, but every single year the Minnesota winter kind of throws something new at us. So it could be Sub-Zero, it could be blizzard, it could be kind of warm and slushy. You kind of never know what you're going to get at the Winter Beer Dabbler, and that's why it's so much fun.
And so this new series that you're talking about, so this is almost like a mystery taste test kind of situation here.
Yeah, the way I kind of think of it, the series is called Unlabeled, and the way I kind of think of it is kind of a connoisseur's dabbler. So if there's one thing that we started to think about, how could we improve the beer dabbler experience? We, at the Winter Dabbler, for example, we have 150 plus breweries, somewhere around there, 10,000 people. Sometimes lines are long, sometimes they're short. But the thing is that at those big Beer Dabbler events, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to interface with the brewers and the beer as much as you'd like. Yes, you can go around and sample. You can talk to the people who are pouring. It's a great way to learn about new beer. But we thought, is there a way that we could do a beer sampling event where you could learn a little bit more, not only about the beers that you're drinking, but also your own personal tastes in beer? And so we came up with the idea of doing a beer sampling event where there's only one style of beer represented and nothing is labeled. So our first series, our first event, Unlabeled number 1, is hazy IPAs. It's the beer of the moment. Everyone is making one right now, but you don't ever get a chance to sit down and try every hazy IPA on the market and see which ones you like, which ones you don't, and more importantly, why you like which ones you like and why you don't like the ones you don't.
This, as I understand, this also kind of takes your preconceived ideas about a particular brewery or those kinds of things out of the equation.
The label is such a strong influence in how you perceive a beer, and what we do on the editorial side at the Growlers, we hold tastings all the time, just to see where our own barometers are.
Someone's got to do it, right?
Exactly. It is a tough job, but we sacrifice for the greater good, right? And so we regularly have done this just in house. Say we pull in, for an issue last year, we pulled in 25 or 30 pilsners and just talked about what's the difference between a Bohemian Pilsner versus a German Pilsner versus kind of a new American style of Pilsner. And we learn so much in those events because we do taste them double blind, so we're not influenced by the labels at all. And we learn so much about our own preferences. We learn so much about the state of the industry, which breweries are really making good stuff. And it's such an educational opportunity for our editorial team that we thought, this would be a perfect event to bring to a larger group of people. And so what we've decided to do is this unlabeled event. It scales down the number of breweries that participate. I think there are around 40 or 50. I don't know the exact number. So we're going to give people an opportunity to taste all of one style of beer from a host of incredible local and regional breweries, and then sort of with about at the end of the event, we're going to have an app where people can log in and type notes or ratings on which beers they like and which they didn't. And at the end of the event, we will flip a switch on the app, and all of a sudden the names will appear. And so you won't be influenced by the name of the brewery before you're tasting, but you'll have detailed notes when you leave the event on which beers you liked and which you didn't.
This is so cool because we're blending modern technology, cutting edge modern technology with an art, with a craft as old, as ancient as beer brewing. So I'm really excited. I'll be there, man. I wanted to talk about too briefly about how the Growler as an organization, as a publication, as a media entity has changed over the years. I think we chatted a little bit about this last time about how things might have started off as just beer focused, but sort of now it's all about lifestyle, and there's wine and food and cheese and sort of the whole thing that goes along, wellness and whatnot that goes along with the lifestyle. And the reason I bring that up is because we mentioned this Twin Cities Pride magazine project is still pretty new, still sort of in its infancy. While I think it's fantastic, and I've gotten a lot of really great feedback from the community, I think really people really appreciate the work you guys are doing and the quality of it. I expect it to change, and I'm sure you guys expect it to change. And I think sort of your history of developing the Growler into what it is over the years sort of speaks to your willingness and to your ability to kind of shift and change as necessary to make sure that the product reflects the community that it serves.
Yeah, there's no question. When we started the Growler, everything was very beer focused, and that was a necessary, I guess, utility of the magazine at the time because we were an outgrowth of these beer festivals. People wanted to know more about beer, and so when we constructed the magazine to begin with, I was just a writer at the time. I came on as a contributing editor very shortly after the magazine started. But what we thought of at the time was that there's an educational opportunity, and people need to know more about beer. But as we started to evolve the magazine, and as the magazine started to find its voice, we realized that the people who like craft beer are intuitive and supremely interested in the way things are constructed and crafted. The reason why you drink craft beer is because you understand the process and you understand how a better process leads to better results. And that is a part of so many things in life, whether it's, choosing between some, mass-produced tennis shoe or a locally made Red Wing boot, or it's, the difference between, plonk wine from Australia or lovingly crafted wine from Oregon or something like that. So we found there's so many different areas. I mean, we kind of call it the craft lifestyle now, where it's talking to the people that are putting their time and creative effort into making better products for people. And once we kind of honed in on that voice, it really expanded from there. And I think the same thing is true of Twin Cities Pride magazine. When we started, we were much more. This is last year. We just sent our third issue to the printer. Last year, when we started, it was very much a functional magazine, kind of like the Growler was for beer. Twin Cities Pride magazine was for the Pride Guide. It was just very much about here's what's happening in the park, here's what's happening at the parade, and that's good and good information for people to have. But in the last year or so, as we thought about how this magazine would evolve, we realized that what happens during Pride weekend, that's just 2 days out of 365 of the year, right? And when we talk about, the people who are performing at Pride, who are setting up Pride events, who are making the weekend what it is, those people are doing amazing things all year round. And what we've realized is that the voice of this magazine should be one where it gives those people the ability to talk about the impact that they're having year round. And that's become, a license for these contributors. Amazing. I cannot even tell you how fortunate I am to work with artists, writers, illustrators, graphic designers from this community who are so plugged in and so just passionate about things happening in the community that it's given them license to go out and tell stories that maybe other publications wouldn't publish.
I think we talked about sort of opening the floodgates in a sense too. There's so many of these people, these contributors, these artists, people in the community that have been traditionally underserved, underrepresented. Like they have this platform now, they have this voice, and it's been like opening the floodgates to all this just amazing creative content.
Yeah, it's really been fun to watch this magazine grow, and it's been such an organic process. We started with a tight-knit group who recommended their friends and collaborators, who recommended their friends and collaborators, and it's grown in just the most satisfying and organic way from that basis.
And so, with the changes that have happened in the Growler over the years, I want to say a lot of those changes wouldn't have happened without the voice of the community, of the readers, chiming in to like voice their opinions and their thoughts. I just say that I'm sure the Growler, Grey Duck Media is very interested in hearing back the feedback from the community. I want to emphasize to people listening to this that this project can't change, it can't grow unless we hear from you and can make changes based on the feedback that you receive.
Absolutely. And so our website for the Pride magazine is tcpridemag.com. And there's contact info on there. We want to know your stories. We want to know what you're interested in. We want to know the people and organizations who are doing good work, who are advancing the causes that are important to you. And you're right. This magazine can't grow without that kind of contribution. So please, please, please send me an email. I want to hear from you.
Awesome. And so, we talked about how the Growler magazine so it's the other way around. So the Dabbler, the live event, the Dabbler was an extension of the Growler magazine. And I think we were talking, the other way around. Yeah. So it's important to point out because, we were talking a little offline and we were talking about sort of kind of the state of media, sort of the state of digital media right now, about how it's really tough. And we're talking about this too. So I recently started doing videos with all of my podcasts. It's really tough to kind of be, like a one-trick pony, if you will, these days. You really need to be where people are, really need to reach people in a lot of different ways. There are a lot of different ways that people can support the Growler and this initiative, this company, this organization. And I want to point that out to people because if you appreciate the work that the Growler is doing, if you want the Twin Cities Pride magazine to stick around and to grow and to thrive, there are several ways that they can support you, either by picking up the magazine or going to these live events. Right there are a multitude of ways that you guys ensure that you continue to grow and to thrive as an organization.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You can't be a one-trick pony, not in small independent publishing in 2019. You have to be diverse. You have to do different things. You have to meet people where they are. Events is a big part of that. But also, you're right, and supporting the people that support the work that we're doing. And so, obviously, if you are a business owner, we would love for you to advertise with us. But also, if you're just a general reader, go support the people that are advertising. I mean, that's tell them that you you saw their ad in Twin Cities Pride magazine. We still believe in the power of print advertising. I mean, that's why we do what we do.
We joked about good old dying print that basically was declared dead when the telegraph basically was invented, right?
Exactly, right. And so so go support the people that are placing ads. Come to our Pride in Brewing events. We've got so many incredible brewing partners in the Twin Cities who are jumping at the chance to help this DCTC Pride in Brewing initiative. So come to those events, and it's just have a pint. Come raise a glass with us and toast to the work that the breweries are putting in. And there are a lot of other organizations that help with those events as well.
Yeah, even supporting those breweries, just going, and you said, having a pint. What's really cool about the breweries is that there's one in just about every neighborhood now. The scene has really exploded. So like I said, you guys have your tastings, and someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do the hard work of going to those breweries and supporting those breweries. Hey, I'm all about it. That's my little labor of love, personally. So I wanted to kind of ask you about what being involved in this project means to you on a personal level. So like I said, you've been a writer for a long time. We joked labor of love, right? But I mean, in the conversations we've had offline, I really get that sense from you that this is really invigorated you on a personal level in a number of ways. What does it mean to you personally to be involved in this project?
It has widened my perspective on our community and our industry in ways that I did not think was possible. I mean, I've been a writer for a long time. I've been a freelance writer for a long time before I was with the Growler, and the freelance life is a lonely life. You are working on your projects. You are only accountable to yourself. It's a very maybe this isn't the exact right term, but self-centered line of work. I mean, you have to be necessarily to do that kind of work. And so what's been really, really interesting and so gratifying about working on Twin Cities Pride magazine is this magazine is not about me in the least. It is about everybody else. I'm in this position where I'm collecting stories and contributions from the people whose work I see out in the community, whose work has been recommended to me, and I just get to go out and collect all of that. It's not on, and necessarily shouldn't be, it's not on me to come up with this magazine. It is growing from the illustrious voices of the people who are contributing to it. And it's such a change for me. And it's especially even working on the Growler magazine. We have an editorial vision, we have a focus, and that filters down into a lot of things we do. And a lot of my job at the Growler is to, direct freelancers in the way that we want sort of our coverage to skew. Perhaps it's coming up with ideas that we want other writers to go out and pursue, commissioning stories that we find interesting. And it's the exact opposite with Twin Cities Pride. It's people coming to me saying, hey, this is interesting. Did you know about it? And 99% of the time, no, I didn't know about it. But it's been a way for me to really broaden my perspective on the work that people are doing, the challenges that people are facing, and the good work that people are pulling together to overcome those challenges. And it's been incredible, the feedback and the work and effort that has gone into this magazine so far. And I just can't wait to see it grow.
Well, thank you on behalf of everyone that I've heard from for all the work that the Growler has done as an organization, for you personally, as well. As we wrap here, we want to tell people, where they can find the Growler, where they can find the Twin Cities Pride magazine, all the who, what, when, where, obligatory information here as we wrap.
Yeah. So find the Growler at growlermag.com. There is a map with all of the locations that we distribute to. It's a free monthly magazine. It's growlermag.com/where to find us. That's the map there. And all of our content from the print magazine is logged online at growlermag.com as well. And Twin Cities Pride magazine is much the same. There's a map at tcpridemag.com where you can find all of our distribution locations. It's most of the places that you can find the Growler. Also during Pride weekend, we'll be passing out issue number 3, the Pride Guide, in Loring Park and along the parade route as well, so you can catch them on Pride weekend. And we're also going to be putting exclusive content that's not in the Pride Guide, since it's a quarterly magazine. We have a couple of months between each of our print issues, so we've got a lot more online exclusive content coming to tcpridemag.com in the coming months.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John, for your time. As always, I'm sure we'll talk again. Good luck with everything coming up with the Growler this year, and we will see you soon.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Ryan. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Twin Cities Pride podcast. We'll see you next time.
The TC Pride Podcast is a production of the Non-Pod, nonprofit podcast community, and Twin Cities Pride. Subscribe now on iTunes, on Android, or by email at tcpridepodcast.org. Because we're in this together. Non-Pod turns your email newsletter, blog, or video content into a more powerful, more personal, more intimate, on-demand listening experience. Your podcast, your story, your voice, simplified, amplified. Learn more now at nonpod.com.